you've been doing workshops that teach people how to research the history of their property, and you guys mentioned OnLand.ca. So can you explain what that resource is and why it's a bit of a game changer for people?
Yeah, so OnLand.ca is a free online resource that's accessible to anyone, anywhere. There are search hours on the website, so it does shut down at night. But it essentially allows you, it's the virtual land registry office, so you can research the history of your property dating all the way back to the Crown Patent. And so previously these were accessible by very large, very fragile books.
Yeah.
So, and you typically have to grab out at least 3 or 4 books in order to get one property's history. So this brings it all into one place. And so we educate on how to access this resource because it is quite tricky at first.
Now you did something very kind for us and you went ahead and researched the history for this building,
Yes.
which we're shooting out of.
Yes.
Can you tell us what you found?
So, as I mentioned, OnLand can be tricky, and this was one of those instances where I took the address of this location and I put it into OnLand because you need the lot and concession or lot and plan number to use the historical books in OnLand, which I didn't have, I just had the address.
Okay.
So to figure that out, I put that in and it said no results found. So we didn't exist here, which isn't uncommon, it does happen.
Yeah.
So what I did was I went to the map feature in OnLand and I manually scrolled through to locate the property.
Okay.
And even on the map, you have lot 8 to the left of here and lot 9 to the right of here, but it was completely blank.
Oh.
So I was a little confused, needless to say, as we would be.
Yeah.
And so what I did is typically registration plans, so it was part of a plan, all of the area around here, and that's a subdivision plan. So they'll go back to a certain point where basically when the subdivision plan was created. So if you wanted to find anything back earlier, you still need to find that lot and concession information because it was originally a 200-acre parcel that was divided down over time. So I was like, well, we're not getting anywhere with the plan part of it, so let's try to find the lot and concession part of it. So there's a great online resource by the County of Lambton called Lambton GIS. And so I hopped on there, did a lot and concession fabric overlay, and figured out that this is lot 16 concession for Sarnia Township.
Okay.
So I popped back into OnLand to the historical books, searched up concession 4 in Sarnia Township, found lot 16, and then I wasn't quite sure if I was going to find, if this was right or not, but it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
And so I started with the earliest, and so the original Crown Patent for what was a 200-acre parcel in this area at that time was on November 8th, 1847 to a gentleman named George Hallock. So he didn't have the property for very long. We saw another transaction literally 9 days later to a Reverend William Scott. And so Reverend Scott held the property for quite a while, and he ended up selling the property in 1865 to Joshua Adams. But prior to that, we do see that there's a right or land, so it's a right-of-way for the Great Western Railway in 1856. That was when the railway was coming to Sarnia from London. So we kind of see the railway coming in, which is really fascinating.
Really cool. Yeah.
And then also what was really interesting about that early record was Reverend Scott took out a mortgage with the Canadian Building Society, which a lot of the times in that era was taken out between people. And for example, to have that building society, so the Bank of Montreal in Sarnia was one of the earlier banks, and that came in 1866. So much later than when, about 10 years after Reverend Scott had taken out a mortgage, which mortgages can be indicators of something being built on the property or something happening on the property. In some cases it can be those key indicators, because what this doesn't tell us is when our homes were built. So we look for clues like that to see, okay, maybe we can narrow it down.
Yep.
So fast forward a little bit, Neil Leckie, a gentleman named Neil Leckie, purchased the land in 1872. And this is important because this land stayed in his family for a little over 100 years. And what was special was Neil Leckie gave the land to his son Edmund on February 11th, 1914. And when I looked into Edmund's ancestry, so family search, there's a lot of tie-ins between property research and family history research.
Right.
Edmund Lecky actually ended up marrying Helen McFarlane on February 11th, 1914. So he was gifted the land from his father on his wedding day.
Wow.
And the land stayed with Edmund until his estate when he passed away in 1973.
Okay.
So, within that, we do see through the census and other records associated with Edmund that he was a farmer, and him and his wife and 2 children did live here. They had a house on the land and farmed the land literally pretty much right up until his passing. That said, that was the west half, which is where this lot is located. So there was a lot of stuff going on in the east half. There was a lot of changeover over there, but because that doesn't relate to this parcel specifically, I just left that part alone.
Okay.
But then after that, we start to see more businesses coming in. So we see the Hydroelectric Commission, Superior Propane, Eagle Transport. We see a fiber business and a whole bunch of other kind of businesses coming in, which shows how the area itself is developing commercially and industrially.
Yeah.
And then in 1986, we see the food market changing to McLean Hunter Cable. And then eventually this land, I did find Cogeco here, and Cogeco in 1997, which you guys are still here today.
We're here, even though there was all kinds of crops. Now you and I are here talking on this piece of land, so that's pretty cool.